everybody, and thank you for joining me here on our fourth edition of Empower Hour, where we are meeting with Taylor Ellard. She is a graduate of Bradford University and studied broadcast journalism. Two young kids, and newer to the mortgage industry, however, has accomplished a lot in her short period of time here. She's she joined First Heritage back just last year, March of last year. Yeah. Closed just shy of 24 million your first 8 months here, and then 4.5 million already this year. So thank you. Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Excited to have you here.
Yeah, me too.
I think you mentioned to me one of your biggest accomplishments so far in your marketing guru experience is you started your own podcast. And in your first year, 40,000 followers? Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I definitely want to get more into that as we keep talking here, but just kind of wanted to start off if you could give me just a little bit about you and how you started here with us.
Sure. So I started in lending 10 years ago, and it was, a tiny little local lender, and they really worked with just one builder. The loan officers there might have been 12 in total, and they needed somebody to really help with their social media and their marketing, and that quickly moved into web development.
Oh, okay.
And in turn continued to move into me helping to recruit, and they would pull me in and say, here's all these things that we could do for you. Use Taylor. She's kind of got some off the wall ideas. And that's sort of how it began. It quickly turned into me wanting more from everything. And so I started getting more and more into business development and helping to coach realtors. So a loan officer would kind of use me as, hey, she's got marketing skills, use my team to help grow your business. And then in turn, that sort of went into the builder world as well. And after, maybe 7 years of doing that kind of thing, I went from one company to another. And then they asked me, do you have any interest in starting a podcast? And I said, absolutely. I think that's something that my broadcast journalism arm can flex a little bit. And I love talking to people, getting to know people, and then in turn using my findings for the loan officers to kind of help them with their careers. So starting the podcast and then creating a coaching platform was huge for me.
That's awesome. With your coaching platform, then how did you take that into mortgages? How did you what was your first step, I guess?
So I ended up creating a program at the time that was called the GAP program, and it was a growth action plan. And we would sit down and I would do a discovery call, which is kind of funny because I do that now as a loan officer. It's named a discovery call with my buyers. Mm-hmm. But I sit down and I had a slew of questions that I would really just figure out, hey, what are you really good at, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you're not one to go and teach a course, but you do enjoy education, what does one-on-one coaching with your agents look like to teach them? So it started with like a, hey, just as needed kind of thing. And I quickly had 47 loan officers in my program. And it was at that time, with a combination of some other stuff, my husband had lost his job. And after having all these people in this coaching platform, and I'm like, you make how much?
Right.
And you're scared of looking at yourself on a camera?
Sure.
So at that point, and I remember, this is how I say it to everybody, because I'm as transparent as they come. I say there was blood in the streets, and I knew that it was mine for the taking. And so, my first year I did 15 million. And then my second year, as you say, I did almost 24. Yeah. So what I knew could work does. Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of how I don't think anybody ever seeks out to be a loan officer. Sure. So it literally falls in people's laps.
Very
and
true.
That's sort of how it fell in mine.
Very cool. So where's your main focus when you are creating your content and stuff? Where are you focusing your energy?
Builders and agents, because those are your referral partners. Mm-hmm. Yes, sure, financial advisors, but really in the grand scheme of things, I only use all of my social media and or marketing platforms to talk to agents. Mm-hmm. My dad would say conduits to your business, right? I only speak to those folks. And sure, you'll get some FAQs for buyers, and also my agents will share what's happening in the market and just insight, what have you. But I use social media as a tool just for them. And I can say I have planted so many seeds with that just
Sure.
organically, right? Like nobody likes a cold call that says, hi, do you want to come meet me for coffee? But if I've been following you for like 3 months and I'm like, hey, cute shirt, or wow, you're killing it, or just like, just, I guess, planting the seeds essentially is how I can say it. And then you go in for you seem really cool. I'd love to do business with you. I want to help you grow. What does that look like? And
Sure.
a lot of times, I try to go in knowing I'm going to get a no and expecting that. And when I get a yes, it's just a pleasant surprise. And that's kind of how with the podcast, that was how I laid those, groundwork for being so successful, was I just went after people. And that's kind of how I really just handle my social media business.
Right. Well, I love how you, when you do whether it's your podcast or any LinkedIn videos you're doing or whatever, you're not just touching your agents, right? You also have the ability to touch a listing agent, which I think gets lost sometimes with purchase transactions. Do you do anything different to reach that listing agent too?
Absolutely. I pride myself on video because I'm not scared of it anymore. I think a lot of times when I hear loan officers say like, I want to do more video, I just don't know what to say. You just got to do it. Yeah. And one thing that sets me apart is that I am sending videos to listing agents. Hey, I remember we submitted an offer and I was cooking and my daughter was on my hip. And I'm like, you know what? Right now, I'm a human and this is what I'm going to do. I had a bowl of pasta cooking and I literally just got on the video and I'm like, hi, we just submitted an offer, and I'm in the midst of momming right now, but I'm dedicated to my buyer and my client, and so just want to let you know that they're sound or whatever it is. And they're like, wow, I can't say I've ever had a video like this, and I'm like, exactly, because there's so many people not doing it, and that you're gonna remember for forever. I mean, I've had other people reach out to me and say like, wow, that's awesome, like you want her as a lender. So that's how I'm trying to stay in front of listing agents. I mean. It's nice to get the emails and stuff like that, but that's really powerful to say like, hey, appraisal's in, it's all good. You're staying top of mind and then you're getting more people in your corner.
Right. How do you then take some of that technology or some of the things that you're doing with that to touch your borrowers then too? What do you do for them?
So when I have my process, I think I mentioned I have the discovery call and I get to know everything from how I'm going to structure the loan to who's gifting, where that's coming from, whatever the case is, how much their income. And then I also am like, I want you to know I'm a person on the other end of this. Tell me a little bit about your goals. Where do you want to be? Why do you want to be there? We cover everything. I mean, every loan officer takes applications different. But I really try and humble myself. You want to find something that common ground, right? And figure out like, are you a mom? Do you have dogs? Like whatever the case may be. And remember, what's your dog's names? What kind of dogs are they? And you write these notes, right? And so that when at closing, you can provide something sweet that was like, here's for Archie, So I do that. And then another big thing that I really enjoy doing, not that that's anything to write home about, but I mean, I do think it's important to have and call it a discovery call. But when I have that estimate in hand, I'm calling the buyer, we go through it, I get that gut check, right? Like, how does this feel? Try that on, how does that feel? And then I say, okay, so I'm gonna send you this estimate, and I actually screenshot it on my phone, and then I record. You can turn the microphone on and then you record your voice walking through it and putting in whatever little nuggets and nuances that they asked you that they might not remember, or every 10,000 you go up or down is roughly this much on your mortgage payment. And that's just so fruitful, and they can save that and come back to it, so that at 10 o'clock at night when they're laying in bed, they're like, should we, shouldn't we,
what did she say on the phone about whatever? They can go back to it and know exactly how you explained it.
Right. And it's not a PDF.
Yeah.
It's something that's like, okay, you hear me, you hear how much I want this for you. It's a human connection at the end of the day.
I like that a lot. I know myself, I know we talked about this before, if between you and somebody else and you educated me on a certain thing, or you taught me something, especially for those first-time home buyers out there who are unsure and don't know where to go, if you taught me something, I'm going to tend to remember that before I remember something else somebody else showed me.
It just, it hits better.
Yeah, knowledge is power. It's good. Very good. Can you maybe talk about some other resources or other things that you utilize that in your kind of like toolbox to help your further your career?
Absolutely. So, I mean, gosh, there's so many platforms out there right now,
Mhm.
and there's so many great mentors.
It's overwhelming sometimes with
It
the amount
does.
of things. Yeah.
And not to mention, loan officers can be very shiny object. I go for it, or
Yeah.
new things. I go for it, and then it kind of just sits. So, stuff that I really enjoy are, HomeBot. HomeBot's a great tool because you put all your past clients in there, and it feeds them an equity report to say how much they've built in their home, and it really makes you can use that for your mortgage annual reviews if you want. Tag your agent in to go do that together. Spend a day doing like, hey, it's December. I'm going to do my year in review with my agent. Use that and kind of walk through it. I will say the nationwide open rate on emails. I mean, think about how many emails we get every day.
Yeah.
It's like Target, Bath and Body Works, wherever it is, it's inundated with it. And so the open rate on those and nationwide is 3%. Maybe a little lower, but the open rate on at least my HomeBot is 89%.
Oh, wow.
That means the majority of everyone that I've ever worked with is getting this,
and
it's
comes
coming
from
me.
you. Okay. Yeah.
And your agent can come on board too. So it's another way to just stay top of mind. And there's tons of buttons in there. I mean, I'm such a nerd with stuff like that. So there are so many options for them to click around, and you get notified on what they clicked. So you really know. I mean,
that's great.
You're building yourself as, this was your biggest investment. So your wealth, you're managing their wealth, and that's really big. I use Eventbrite just from let's talk like platform, I guess you could say. Eventbrite I use to host stuff with my builders, host stuff for my agents. The way I show love is by hosting everybody at my house. So I do a lot of brunches, lunch and learns at my house. I can cook for you. We can drink mimosas and talk business and life and all the things. And that's kind of how I wrap my arms around people. But I also use Facebook group or Facebook events too. And I think the biggest place I find the most help and just ideas, because we're not reinventing the wheel. I'm simply just taking someone who's attempted to do it and did it well and trying to just make it better. Just mimic somebody, but put your spin on it, because people want to work with you. I follow the Mortgage Nerd. I'm actually in her coaching program. She just puts out lots of really great graphs, graphics, and just stuff that's going to really hit. As far as other people, I like to follow economists. Housing Wire puts all kinds of good stuff out there. But all of that to say, they put really good content out. Shoot, MBS Highway, I have that too. Sure. Being able to watch what Barry says and regurgitate it to your agents to where it, one, makes sense for them, and two, it's something that you could just post about, because, you're always looking for content. What's next? Yeah. And those are really good places to start.
How do you, I guess, outside of those few resources, do you find yourself at all ever struggling to find social media content, or?
Yes and no. I mean, you hit writer's block from time to time,
Sure.
But there are times where all I would need to go is look at our blog page and just, okay, this is a quick little FAQ that I can't just pop on stories or reels and just post about. Just a fun marketing plug there too. But I've come to a spot where I see other people talking about it when people are, let's just take FHLB funds, for example. There are a lot of, it's wonderful. It's easy money. It's free money. But there's also the other side to that, right? Like that, it's a 45-day close. It's hard. I can't say for sure you're going to get this money. And so you see all these loan officers that are always like, this is so great. It's wonderful. But I want you to go a little deeper with your people and say, here are the constituencies around this, and you should know this. So we're really, expectation is everything, right? So just showing up there. But I mean, I get that sometimes. I shut down sometimes, or there's a week where I don't want to be on the camera all the time. Sure. So I don't have to be, right? I could go to a new spec home and video in there and talk about, hey, what is this is an incentive the builder is giving. What does that look like with monthly payment? So there's ways around not being on camera, but sure. I certainly get a little not happy about it sometimes. Yeah.
How much time do you think you spend on your social marketing?
I guess it just depends. If it's a heavy content week, like this week, here, let me answer this. I say I probably put 5 hours every week into it, which isn't a ton. And a lot of times it happens when I'm drinking my cup of coffee in the morning and I have both kids and it's bananas, but I'm like, I have an idea, I'm going to execute. And that's when I do it because I'm caffeinated. And so I get that out of the way. And a lot of times I'll do what I call bulk content, right?
Okay.
So I'll go to a spec and I'll bring 6 different outfits and I'll do, 8 different videos, and that I can stack up. So I have a library of sorts so that I don't have to be like willy-nilly. I know what I'm talking about. I know where I'm going to be. So it's almost like stacking a habit on a habit. Like if I'm already going to go to a coffee date, I might as well, talk to them about something important and then go on stories and say, I just met up with this agent and we were at this local coffee shop. They tagged the shop. There's all these things that I've learned over time, but it's all about remembering when to pull the phone out and just capture that moment. And I always say, when I'm coaching is everything you do in your day, look at it as an event. Okay. When you have a big event, you've got your pre, during, and post event strategy. So my pre strategy, like let's say it's a coffee. Maybe I see some agents right now saying like, here's what I'm doing today. Same kind of thing. Here's what I'm doing today. I'm going to go get coffee and then I have a buyer consultation and then it's just a little picture of you. You didn't have to work too hard for it. And then you're at your coffee and you take a picture of the coffee or you take a little selfie. You know what I'm saying? It's just so easy to do it. You just have to think about it as being an event and not necessarily like, I'm just going to get coffee. And then your post, what does that look like? So, I mean, I think one thing that people are like, wow, you seem like you put a lot of time into this. I don't watch my stuff back.
Right.
I don't care how you feel about me using a filter. Like if that makes me feel good about myself, then that's okay. It's not like I've got like 6 heads or something, but it's something that like a blemish is gone. Right. And that's okay too. The men are probably like, but I use it, but I don't watch myself again. And I think that that's where people get kind of lost in the sauce, right? Because they're like, oh, well, I didn't say this. I wanted to say that.
Sure.
There are so many things. Just let it ride. Done.
Well, I will say
not perfect.
myself included. It's hard to kind of get to that place where you feel confident enough to put yourself out there or not worry about some of the extra stuff. Well, what would you tell some of our loan officers here who are more interested in kind of putting whether they've been doing this a long time and so social media is just something foreign, or some of our new loan officers who that's really their next step and they're excited to do it but just don't know where to start?
Yes.
What guidance would you give them?
I would say those who are afraid to start, just do it. I think gone are the days where it's not an option anymore.
Sure.
You have to do it. That is a part of your business, is marketing. And so being able to put yourself out there, I always say, you look how you look, you sound how you sound, get over it.
Which social media outlet do you feel like is the first place to start?
Instagram. Every time. And I also say this because I think, a lot of times people say, oh, well, where all should I be? It's too much of it's all. And I say, if you're doing one piece of content, spread it everywhere. If you're really going to dive in on something, sure, Instagram's great because it's low hanging fruit. You get in front of the masses. But if you're already doing the work, just put it everywhere. It doesn't hurt,
Yeah. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. That's such good feedback and information. I will take all that feedback for myself as well. I appreciate that very much.
Of course.
So speaking about, I know in the very beginning we kind of put a little pin in talking about a podcast, but let's talk about a podcast because that's something that this Empower Hour has turned into a podcast, which I'm so excited and proud of. So let's talk about yours. What's it called and how do we find you?
Okay, so we are kickstarting something awesome and we're calling it Confessions of a Lender. Okay. And what's awesome about this is that it's going to be so well-rounded that it's for everybody, right? Okay. It's going to be stuff on being a female entrepreneur, right, in 2025. It's going to be about being a mom and also work life. It's going to be an opportunity for agents to come on and talk about confessions of the craziest listing you've ever seen, or, insight
from home buyer stories or what have you. That's cool.
Yeah. And, some expertise in there too, of course. So some bigger names, Todd Duncan, Renee Rodriguez, people who have been in the industry and they're just sounding boards and they're consistently putting really great content out. I do want to plug one other thing because I didn't plug it in earlier. Dave Savage has a really wonderful YouTube presence and he is every single day putting out videos, and he's getting on like Jeremy Forcier, who is an incredible producer. And so stuff like that, I'm always listening while I get ready, while I'm putting my makeup on. Sure. I put the YouTube channel on, and I think much like you would listen to a podcast, it's something that's just one of those things where it's just idle time, but I'm still trying to learn because I think education is everything. And so whether I'm on the treadmill and I'm listening, on a Peloton and I'm listening, I'm always trying to feed my brain by those who are doing it much better than me. Because I always say, if you're the smartest one in the room, you're in the wrong room. So that's exciting. But this podcast is going to be unlike anything I have heard of in the lending sphere.
Okay,
so
great. And
go
go live is?
Stay tuned.
Okay. I love that. That's so cool. It's very exciting.
We're excited.
All right, great. Well, we're right at the end of our chat here, so I need to ask the final three.
Okay.
What is the best advice you've ever heard or received?
Best advice. I remember, so this is perfect because this ties in really nicely. I remember when I first started my first podcast and I had to put myself out there on video. Like, this is it. You are on the line in this moment. And I remember reading a quote that says, what other people think about you is none of your business. And that is huge because you're right. Why should I let somebody control me when I'm not even in their brain? Right. So when I needed that push to really put myself out there, from asking for someone to be on the podcast to showing up on Instagram, and I will tell you, I've only ever had one in all of my reels and all the people that I've been in front of and all of the social media, everything, I've only had one bad comment. So don't let that fear freak you out. And by the way, that guy wasn't even listening to what I was saying anyway. So it's not even,
usually.
No.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that bad, So I think the fear of rejection is why people stop.
100%.
But if I've only ever gotten one, and I'm transparent, I'll tell you, I've only ever gotten one, that's not that bad. It's totally worth doing.
Don't they usually say that you're so worried about what they think about you and they're already worried about what you're thinking about them?
Exactly.
So we could just stop doing that.
Yes. Yes.
That'd be great.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. On the flip side, then, what is some of the worst advice you've ever received?
Oh gosh. So sometimes I think people quantify their time in a way that it's money driven. And that's true. Like, by the hour, if you quantify that, and you would think, well, if you get really successful, then your hours are however much money. But really, in the grand scheme of things, like, you're just as good as your last deal. So how much love did you put into that, right? So it's like, think about it like that. So how are you going to get that next person?
What is one thing that you would tell your younger self?
One thing that I would tell my younger self would be, man, there's probably a lot. There is a whole meme going around right now, or like videos that are like, if you had coffee with your younger self.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yep.
Have you seen them?
Yep.
And I kind of think like, you can do anything that you put your mind to. You can be like I said, I thought I was going to be a stay-at-home mom. And there's no way I could have been a stay-at-home mom. Like, I love my babies to death, but I need adult time. Right. But there's nothing that you can't do. I remember being a loan officer, just getting licensed in July of 2023. That's when I kind of ripped the Band-Aid and went all in. And I was looking at my husband one day and I'm like, I don't know that I can do this. I'm scared. And he was like, look how you've done, and you're full time. Like, you can do this. And thank goodness, we all believed in it. But you can do anything, and you can grow. If you need a coach, if you need a mentor, if you need call me. I'm absolutely willing to just give you that boost that you need. But
don't let fear paralyze you.
No.
Yeah.
It's easy to do that. That's the easy way out.
Sure. Well,
There's blood in the streets.
A lot of that stuff that you explain and just getting past your own self, I think, is what a majority of our issues are. I speak for myself here. But just trying to get over some of those hurdles and the amazing growth and steps you can get to if you just push yourself. Mind over matter a little bit. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for spending the time with me today. I appreciate it. I think we've all learned something here. So thank you very much.
Of course. Thank you.